Vivek Ramaswamy, presidential candidate, just shares his religious views in a presidential town hall. And so let's get right into this video. My name is Aaron, excited to get into this kind of stuff with you because I do Christian reviews on pop culture. So let's get right into this thing, and we're going to pick it up from the hour 25 mark.
Please.
Thank you for coming. I love that you're unabashedly proclaim that one of your tenets is God is real. And as a Christian, my faith is first and foremost who I am. Being a Hindu, can you please share your faith about God and what you think of his son, Jesus Christ?
Thank you. So I appreciate that. So I'll share with you my faith, and I'll share with you the relevance that I think it has to leading this country. So I'm a Hindu. There's many strains like there are Christianity, Catholicism, etc. There's many strains of Hinduism too. I believe in one true God. I believe that that God resides in each of us. I think it is the same statement of spirit when we say in the Christian tradition, and I did go to Catholic schools and I've read the Bible perhaps more closely than most Christians I know. It's the same message as when we say we are equal because we are made in the image of God. It's the same spirit to say that's where our equality comes from. It's not some secular value. We're equal in the eyes of each other because we're equal in the eyes of God. The tradition I was raised in, we say we're equal in the eyes of each other because God resides in each of us. That we each have a duty to one another. You know, to think about that strand of sacrifice and duty. That's foundational to Hinduism. I think it's the common strand between the Old Testament and the New. I mean, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac for God. He didn't make him follow through with it. The New Testament, God comes back and says, I will sacrifice my son, Jesus Christ, for you, the people. And so that's a long way of saying that I'm not Christian. And just in my spirit of my answer to the last question, I will never pretend to be something I'm not. I'm always going to speak the truth about who I am and what I stand for. But I think it's deeply true that we share the same Judeo-Christian values that this nation was founded on. And this nation was absolutely founded on Judeo-Christian values. That's a fact. It is also a fact that I deeply share those values in common. And to be honest, does our church, does our family, when there isn't a Hindu temple available, will we go for our collection of self to a church if that's the next closest available opportunity for prayer? Yes, we will. And so in our tradition, we say Jesus Christ is a son of God. I understand that's different than saying he is the son of God, but we share the same value set in common. And I'm not running to be pastor-in-chief. I'm running to be commander-in-chief. It's a different role, right? And for that role, I think we share the same value set. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm very impressed with you because I think you act more like a Christian than most Christians.
I agree. Thank you for saying that. We have the same values, and that's why. Thank you very much.
So I thought that was, first of all, let's just say what a class act Vivek is. I've just started watching some of his videos, and I'm really liking what I'm hearing. It's just such a class act. But let's get right into the core of this stuff. I'm going to take it from going retroactively and go backwards here. The first thing that he was talking about is this last thing is that he is not applying for pastor-in-chief. He's applying for commander-in-chief. And I thought this was a very good distinction on his part, because when we're talking about applying for a position, we have two things to consider amongst at least two things. We have qualifications and values, okay? So the qualifications can be different and should be different for a range of things, but the value systems should be the same. So like when you're hiring for a company, as I do, I have different positions. I want to make sure that all the values are the same. However, each position has different qualifications. And so if we talk about something like a pastor or president, right? The qualifications could be something like you go to seminary, you understand the Bible, you understand theology, you believe in the Trinity, those are the qualifications for a pastor. But for a president, maybe definitely the qualifications are different, right? You understand law, you should understand economics, you understand socio-political stuff. You know what I mean? Like those are different However, the values should probably be very, very similar, right? Love, compassion, leadership, striving for everyone, right? Not divisive. Those are very important values that I think are carried out, or it should be carried out in all these types of leadership roles. So on one end, I really commend him for that. Really highlights it. It teaches me, honestly. It gave me something to think about, especially when hiring for different positions, that the values should be consistent with the company or the organizations, but the qualifications can be wildly different. Okay, I want to talk about, he briefly mentioned this and he highlighted it. He believes that Jesus is a God versus, and saying Jesus is the Son of God, or rather God, right? That's his title. And so I think this is at least something to talk about, because he differs on Christian belief because he's Hindu. But saying that Jesus is one God of many, I'm not sure of all the implications that turns out to in values. It's certainly, if I'm taking Vivek as a case study, there's really not much of acting out of values. However, it does pose an interesting theory on, what is sin, and who is sinner, who's a sinner, who's sinful, right? Because if Jesus is a God among many, then Jesus is not the God who sacrificed himself to die on the cross for our sins, not capable of carrying all of that out. Then you kind of get caught in this spiral here. Where versus if Jesus is the God, right? He alone judges. He alone takes on the sin of the world. He alone is the one way, one truth, and one life, right? One. I'm emphasizing doesn't say it in the Bible, right? I know this. But when we talk about this, right, I'm not sure how this all plays out in a value system, in like a practical presidential turnout. What does that do to somebody? I think for me, you certainly have to think about the sin, right? Like, is there multiple ways to God? Can we figure this out? I wonder what that does for his exclusivity. I don't know. It's just a question. I'm not trying to assume anything. Let me know. Actually, this is a good question for the video. Let me know in the comment section below. How does believing in Jesus is a God, a Son of God, versus the Son of God, how does that play out practically? This is something that I actually don't really have an answer for you. I want to know your kind of feedback on that. The third thing I want to talk about, and probably the most important part, what he was establishing, is that we have the same values, and he highlighted an equality of people. Now, equality is something that we all really desire. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're atheist or not, right? There's been people desire an equality of pay, an equality of outcome, an equality of rights. Like, they're all fighting for rights. So an equality of potential, of opportunity, right? Everyone wants to make it equal. However, in Christianity, the value to be extracted is that there is an equality of humanity, and I would say of human value, right? When you bring that out, like, what does that mean? Like, each individual human is equal in value. You would probably say equal in deservingness, right? Deservingness of blessing, deservingness of happiness. Each individual human is equally valuable and deserving, and is beautiful, made in beauty. So when I'm not sure about a lot of Hindu, right? Like, you have the divine within you, you have a God within you. Christianity would mirror, not the same thing, but they would borrow similar terms, like you have the image of the invisible God stamped upon you. The difference now is that when we have the image of God stamped upon us, we now belong to him. Our identity is now attached to him. So I'm not sure how identity works its way out when you're a Hindu. I just don't know. That's not my specialty. However, when we have an identity in Jesus Christ, we are now valuable. That's where we derive our philosophy of value, is by the one who created us. And so we are all equal because we're all created by him. And I would say this again, I've used this in another video, but it's like if a painter painted the painting. Like, the painting itself, I could paint the same thing, I could print it out. It's not the same. The painter is the one who gave it value. And so because it's like Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, right? Like that is now valuable because of the painter, right? There's tons of other buildings out there that have been painted and probably look just as good, if not better, but dang, that's a Michelangelo painting. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of a lizard brain term to think about it. I'm just kind of dumbing it down for myself to understand it better. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think is the outworking of believing that Jesus is a God versus the God in the context that Vivek is using it. Don't take it out of context here, right? To like make it something that he's running it as a presidential candidate. And I'm curious to see how that plays out, or how you think that plays out in someone's life. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me through just my thoughts and like really thinking deeply about some of these topics. I really appreciate the comments. I'll be responding to them. Have a great one. See you in the next video of this Jordan Peterson video right here on the screen. See ya.